Hello friends, welcome to the next part of my Next.js13 series. In this part, we will be creating this area of our blog, which is the hero of this blog, and also these cards using material UI5. Now to do this, let's go back to VS Code, and here inside our components, we'll create a new component and we call this card. You can use JS or JSX, doesn't matter. And here I'll say RAFCE to create my component, and inside this component, of course, we will create our card. Now to give this card a layout, we need the flexbox. Now we have two choices. We can use our own flexbox or we can use the one from Material UI. So for now, I'll be using the stack from Material UI5, but of course, you can use anyhow you want. We'll be doing both of them, so don't worry. Now here, I'll say stack. So to import the stack from Material UI5, now let's go ahead and import this. And here, I'll say import stack from Material UI5. So MUI material, and it's imported. Now inside this, we need a wrapper. Now to use the wrapper, we'll be using the box from MUI material like this. So here inside our wrapper, we'll be creating first of all a button, which is the edit button. So if you go back, you can see we got this edit button here. So if someone click this, it should open the model for us. Now for this, we'll be creating the box like that, box. And inside this box, instead of creating that button, I'll be using the props and create that button in another component, because in that way it will be clickable. So if someone click on it, we can use the onClick function. If it doesn't make any sense now, don't worry about this. As we do everything in action, you will understand everything better. So here I'll say props. Now to use the props, we have to accept the props also. So I'll put the props inside my function, and here I'll be using the props dot, and I call this edit button. You can call this button or whatever you want. Now to make the image clickable and show another link for the user, so if the user click on it, and it should route us or redirect us to another page, which is the details page. So for this, we need the link. Now to import the link, it's very important to understand that you have to import the link not from MUI5 but from Next.js. So here I'll say import, and we'll be using link, so it will be just directly link, and this should come from Next.js. Now it will be next, and after this we'll say link, and after importing that, we'll be using this here. So now for the link, we need href also. So I'll say here href, and here I'll say prop, because we will accept everything from our API. And for now, I'll be using also everything just like we are using for our API to be prepared for that part also. So now here I'll say props dot link src. You can call this anything you want. So I'll say link source like that. And inside this, now before in Next.js 12, we had to use the a tag also. But in Next.js 13, we don't need this anymore. So don't worry, without these a tags, everything will work just fine. So here after this, I'll be using the image. Now image also should come from Next. If you import this from anywhere else, it will create problem for you. So now I'll say here import image. So from where it should come from our Next, and here we need Next legacy like this, and then the image. So like that. So for the next image, you have many props. You can see in the documentation. It's just easy. So for here, I'll say just component. So what will be the component? Which component is this? Now I'll say here just its image component. So img. And then I'll say the source. Now, as I said, the source of this we'll be using from props. So we'll be using this from API. That's why I'll say here also image source. you can say anything you want, and we gave this also alt. So, and here I'll say it is, for example, picture of the post, like that. And after this we need to use the layout. Now for the layout you have many options, but for now I'll be using fill because I want to fill everything. Otherwise you can use the fixed, intrinsic, responsive. So you can give it a try yourself if you want to use any of them. For now I'll be just using the fill because I'll be using this image inside a wrapper. So after this, as we did that, now we can just close it. Now here we got one more problem. So if you use the layout is equal to fill, it will cover all the part of this div. So it will cover all this box here. And we don't want that big image size. Now to give the images size for Next.js, you have two ways. The one way which Next.js suggests is that with your APIs, you should also pass the width and also the height of that image. But we don't always have this option to get the images and the sizes which we want. So to solve this problem, we need to cover everything inside a wrapper again. So like that, I'll be using a box. So let me just drag this down here like that and save it. Now as we got our box, so here we can define our own CSS. So here I'll say height. So here I want to be flexible. So I want to define the image height or the width just as I want inside that other component. So that way we can have one card but different sizes. For example, this one here. We got this layout and also the image is bigger as these images. So that's the reason we have to use the props here also. Now for this, I'll say height and this will be props dot and it will be image height. Or you can call this just height again. It doesn't really matter. So, and then I'll say width and this should be equal to the image width. So I'll say here props dot. I don't need this like that. So we need curly braces because we are using props. So props dot image width like that. We'll be using the width also this way. And also for this box, as it's the parent of this image, I'll make the position of this also relative. So for this, we'll be using sx. So sx is equal to, and here we can define the position. So I'll say position like that. And this position should be relative. Just like this, relative, and save it. Now we got our image and our box of image, so the wrapper of that. And after this, for the text, of course, we need another box here also. So after the link, so this is the image link. And after this, we'll create another wrapper for our text. So here box, and inside this, I'll say this box, for example. Now I could also use here the stack, but for now, let me show you how to use also the flex box. So here I'll say sx is equal to, now we can say display and this should be flex, and then we'll say justify content. So justify content like that, and this should be center, and then we need align items, so comma align items, and this should be also center like that. Save it. So this will give us a center layout, and inside this we need again the same box, but as we are using the material UI5, so one way we have this one, or we can use the stack, or the other way is we can use the component. So for this we'll go back here just above our const card, and here we can create another const table and then give it a name. So it will be text container like that, and this should be styled. And what do we want to style? I'll say this time I want to style a div just like normal, and inside this we can use display of flex. So flex, and just the same way like before, justify content, so it will be also center like that. And then we need align items, and this will be also center. So save it, and of course we can now use our styled container. So the text container we will be using here, just like that, and we are done. Now it's up to you how you use this. You can use the same text container and call this, for example, flexbox, and use it once here and then for the text, or you can use that way. It doesn't matter. I wanted to show you all the possibilities, so that's why I'm using everything differently, but you can of course use your choice. With that being said, now let's continue. Now first of all, let me save this so everything is indented. Now here we'll be using for our first text, it will be typography as always. So typography, and we'll define a variant for this. So the variant of this will be h7. I have checked everything before, and then I need some CSS here also. So I'll say sx, and inside this I'll say border bottom. So border bottom like that, and this should be something like 2 pixel solid. You can of course choose your design, 2 pixel solid, and I'll say font weight here. Now we need the font weight, so it will make our text a little bit thicker. So font weight of 900, and then I'll say text transform to transform the text in uppercase. So if we get any text from our API, if it's uppercase or lowercase, it will be always just uppercase like that. And then we need the width. So here I'll say width. So the width of this should be, of course we need here a comma like that, and then I'll say fit content. So fit content, so it will fit everything without defining any kind of pixel here. And also I'll be using margin bottom. You can use margin bottom like this or just type margin bottom, it just depends to you. Here I'll say margin bottom, and it should be something like 15 pixel like that. And then we need to close everything, so I'll be using here like this. Now inside this I'll be using also props instead of typing a dummy text, because later on we'll be using the API. So I'll say prop.heading or header, whatever you call this, it doesn't really matters, but you should have this. And after this we need our link. So if we go back, you can see this will be our heading, but here we got a link. So normally if you use a link, it will be just some text with underline, and if you click this it will get blue. But for this, as we want to use our own design, so new text and also the style and everything, that's why we need another box here. So let's see how to create this. Now here we'll create another box, so it will be just material UI component. So here I'll say const. You can call this box, or to make everything simple, I'll just call this styled link, so that you understand this, is equal to styled. Of course we need this one, and here as I said before we need a box, so I'll be styling a box. And also here we need some props. Now to pass the props inside the styled component, so for that we need to do some more steps. So here we'll open another function, and inside this we'll be using the curly braces, and then we can define our props. So here I'll say font size like that, comma, and then I'll say my color. You can call it anything you want, and that's it. We need font size and my color, because this will be different in every section. As we work together you will understand this better. For now you can just ignore this. And then after this we'll be using our arrow to make this a function. Then just normally we start our function, and use the curly braces, just like that. And now here I'll say then font size. So for font size, as I said, we won't be using a defined font size, but we will get the font size from the user or from the section, or we define ourselves and other sections. So here I'll say font size, not like this. So I'll be using font size, and then we'll be using font family. So font family of this will be something different. So let me paste this one. It's a little long. So copy, and we'll be pasting this here. So it will be source serif pro and source serif pro. So that's what I found in Bill Gates' blog font family. So that's what he is using. You can use any kind of URLs. You can just search for it in Google and you find a lots of them. So here then we say font width, and this time we don't define any font, and I'll say just normal bold, like that. And then I'll say color. So as I said, color. So for the color, I'll be using my color from the above, so as a prop. But if there is no color, what should it do? So I'll say here just a statement, and I'll say if there is my color. So if the user defined any prop, or if we give a value to my color, then it should be that color which we defined. So it will be my color's color, so just normal, or it should be just black, like that. And then we'll be using the cursor. So I'll say cursor of this pointer, like this. And after that, I'll give it a line height. So line height, and this would be something like 1. And also we need to define the hover. So to define the hover, we do this just like this, and material UI, like that. And I'll say the text decoration of this will be just underline. So if someone hover, it will make this underline, just like that. So let's save this, and now we can use it, of course. So after this, we'll be using our styled link. So here I'll type styled link, just like that. And inside this, now we can use our a tag or link. But as we are using the link from Next.js, so we don't need to use a tag. So here I'll say link, and then I'll define just the href, and it will be props dot link source. So as I said, I'm not going to define anything static for now, and we need to close this. And inside this, we'll be using some title. So for this, I'll say props dot title, just like that. And then we need some description just below this, but outside of this link. So it will be this description here. So it will give this design here. Now I'll say here a box. So we'll be using a box from Material UI. And inside this, we don't need any kind of design, as it is just normal box. So I'll say props, and here we'll be using our description. So I'll say props dot disk, just like that. And after that, we need the author name. So I'll be using typography. Variant of this will be just H6, and I'll give it some font width. So font width, and here I'll say it is just 900, like that. And we close this. After that, we need our props. So I'll say props, and this will be our author, just like that. So for now, that's it. So let's save this, and I hope we don't have any error. So let's go ahead and test it out. Now to test this, we need to create our hero, because we got all our layouts like this, and we have to define some text or some dummy text to check everything. So for this, I'll go back to VS Code, and inside my components, I'll create another component and I'll call this hero.js, or let's make this JSX so we can use the HTML better. And then we'll say RAFCE to create our component and save this. Now here we need our card, but before that we have to create our grid system here. So for that, first of all, what I do is here I'll cover everything inside a container like that, and this is from Material UI, so don't forget to use from MUI material and not MUI system. And then inside this we'll be using just the grid. So grid, and there's also something new in Material UI5, which is grid 2. Now this grid 2 is not supported from Next.js13, so please don't use this, otherwise you will see some unnecessary errors. So I'll go ahead and import the grid from MUI material, just a normal one, and as this will be our grid container, so I'll pass the prop of container like this, and inside this we need two grids. Now the first grid will be for our large image, this one, and the second grid will be for our small cards here. So like this. Now let's see what I mean. So here I'll go ahead and create a grid. So remember, later on we are going to use our API, and that we will map everything, and then I'll show you how to filter the grid, so you use both of grid inside one map. But for now we'll be using two separate grids. So here first of all I'll say grid like that, and this will be a grid item because the parent is container, so this will be an item, and this will then treat this as a grid component. So here I'll say XS, so we'll define which sizes we need in different screens, and here I'll say XS 12, so in extra small screens it will just take everything, but for the other screens like medium or small we don't define anything. That way we will get that big image like that. And then I'll give it some margin bottom, so margin bottom of this will be 2, and also I'll say margin top, and there will be also something like 2, and that's it for now. So let's close this, and inside this then we use our card. So let's import the card, and this card should not come from MUI material, but it should be imported from our components. So remember this also. So it's now coming from .card, which is here, just like that. Now as I said before, inside our card we got a lots of props. Now we have to fill all those props. So the first one was the direction. So let's define the direction. Now in direction is equal to, and here I'll say it should be row, just like that. Now I'm using row because this card direction is row. So now let's go ahead and close this one. So the first one is done. Now let's use the second one, which is the image width. If we don't define any image width, you will get some error from Next.js. So that's why please don't forget to use image width, and this should be equal to, and here I'll say this should be something like 566, like that. And also I'll give this image height, so image height, and this should be equal to, and this will be something like 400, not 3 but 400 pixels. And then we got my color, so as I defined my color, so this will be the color for this text, so the color of this in this time will be black. And also I'll say link source, so the source for our link. Now here we can define just home, so like that, because for now we don't have any API link. So for this I'll just use the home. And then we got the font size. So this should be done also. So for the font size, we'll be using just like 14 pixel or 40 pixel. So to use a pixel, we have to use this just like this. And then we got image source. So where this image comes from, image source, and this is equal to. And here we have to remember one important thing. So for this image source, we'll be using a dummy image like that. So you'll get free images for production also. So let's use a random image from here. So I'll be using this flower, and I'll say just copy image link, just like that. We will see an error at first, but I want you to see that error. So for now, let it be just like that. And then we'll be using the heading. So heading, and this is just like example like that. And after this, we got our title. So title for our card. So later on, everything will be from API. So for now, we have to use some dummy title. But for here, I'll be using just the text from here. So let me just copy this and I'll paste it just here. So we can see everything better. And then after the title, we got our description. So desk, and this will be equal to some description here. Now for this also, I'll just copy everything from here like that, and I'll just paste them here. Now for the other one, we got this author. So these are all props from our card. So let me show you again. So now as you see, we got props.image source, props.image height, image width, and heading, link source, title, description, author. So everything is just coming from there. So that's why we are defining everything. Now here I'll say it is by, just like that, and I'll say it will be Bill Gates. So Bill Gates has written for us. Now here we have to define our date. So it's a January, 9th of January it is, and the year is 23. So like this. And also we need our edit button. So edit button like that. And we have to define the edit button also. Now, as I said, we are not using that button there, but we have to create that button just here. So for the edit button, I'll be using Fab from Material UI. Now, if you are not familiar with Material UI5, go ahead and watch my beginner's course. In that course, I have already explained everything. So for now, I want to speed up everything. That's why I'm not explaining everything in depth. So here I'll say size, and the size of this, it's just some props from Material UI. And I'll say it's small, and then the variant we defined here. So I'll say it's extended, just like that. And also what we need is a color. So as the color is green for us, so it will be just success. And then area label. So we need a label like that. And this should be edit. And also we need the on click. But for now, as we don't have any function, so I'll just leave it like that. And here inside this, now I'll say edit. So later on, we will add our edit from our model. But for now, I'll just let everything just like that. And then, of course, we need to close this one. So this card here, it's a self-closing component. So after this here, I'll just close everything. And as you see, it's working the way we want. Now to see the result, we have to go inside our pages and here to index.js. Now here we got lots of things from the Next.js. So let's just remove everything and styles.container. So let this be like that for now. Now here we'll be using our hero. So let's see if we done everything correct or if we got some problems. Now if we save this and if we go back, and that's running here, so let's see the result. It says this style does not define because we haven't imported that. So it's inside our cart, and we have to import this also from material UI. So styled, just like that. Save it, and now if we go back, now as you see we got some problem here from image. So that's the error which I wanted to show you. Now if you want to use the images with Next.js from an API, you have to register that CDN or that website which you are using. Now for this you're using cdn.pixabay.com, so we have to define or inform the Next.js that we are purposely allowing this website to show their images inside our website. So now let's go back to VS Code, and from here we go to next config. Now here we got React strict mode true. After this we need these images. So for images, I'll be using another tag, and it will be images. And here inside the curly braces, we define our domains. And domains will be an array here. So it will accept an array because we can have many of domains from which we'll take our content. So here it will be pixabay.com. Now it is saved. And if we go back, you'd see there's no changes here. And still it's prompting that we don't have that host name. The reason is if you make any changes inside next.config, you have to restart your server. So I'll just cancel this, and again I'll say npm run dev. And after that I'll go ahead here and refresh it. And now voila, as you see we got our image. But there are some problems with our text. They are not defined in this place, but that's fine, we'll take care of them. But for now everything is working great. We have our edit button and all the text as desired. So now let's go ahead and create some more cards. So we have our grid here, and then we'll take care of this one here also. Now let's go ahead and cite hero.js, because there's what we need, another grid for our all other cards. So here we'll create another grid. This will be also grid item. So like that we define that it's an item. And also here we'll say the medium size of this should be just 3. So it won't cover everything, but it will take just 3 columns from all the container, so that we have places for more images like that. And then spacing, we'll define some spacing between every card, so it will be just 1. And then we need to close this one like that, and then of course we need to close this one, so I'll just go ahead and close it. Great, like that. And inside this we'll be putting our cards. So let me copy this card from here instead of typing everything again, and paste it just here. So now here for this card, of course we need some more changes. So now the first thing is the direction of this should be column, and also the card size will be different. So the image width here will be 280, and also here I said 220. That's why I'm using image width and image height as a prop. And then here we don't need any heading, so let's remove this one from here. We need just the description. We don't need the author. We do need this edit button, so that's it. Now let's save it and see the result. So if we go back, now as you see we got a small image and also a large image here for us, but there are still some problems because we don't get any real direction here. So let's see what have I done. So for this I'll come back here, and it is XS12, and that's okay, and the direction is row. So we got some problems, I think, inside our card. So here we got our text container, and then we got the stack. Oh, in stack we have to define the direction, so I have forgot to define the direction here, because otherwise we don't get any new direction. So for this we just need an SX. First of all, let's make this also cursor of pointer. So SX, and I'll say here cursor like that, and this should be pointer. Take this. And here we need also the direction, so let's set the direction. Now here, instead of saying row and etc., we'll say props dot direction, like that. And if we go back, we still don't get that. So let's see, what have I done. So we got one box, it should be inside the stack. So let's see, box link, then we got another box. Oh, the image box should be just inside one box and not the one box for everything. So we don't need one wrapper for everything, but instead of that we'll be using two boxes. So here we should close our first box or our first wrapper. So this wrapper will be just for the image from here up to here, and the last one, this box should be removed. And then we got one more wrapper which comes after that, which is this flex wrapper, and this will be for our text container. And that's why we do need this two times, because the first one will be just for our two columns here, and then we need the text container for these text inside our card also. So let's save this. So let's go back. Now as you see, we got everything as row here and also here as column, but there's also some more problem. I think we are not getting everything correctly inside our text box, so text container. So let's see what's wrong here. I'm sorry for that, guys, because I haven't checked everything and just directly write the code. But let me define this here. So this is not justify content center, but you have to say flex direction, and then here we define our flex direction, and this should be column, just like that. So comma column, and save it. And if we go back, as you see, it's column here and here also, and there are also two different layouts. So this courses as column. So as you see, we got image, then we got our text, and then here we got image in one side and other side our text. So it's also in a format of row, like that. Now also for the text, we need to make more changes. So let's go ahead and see what we need. So here for our large card, we need the 40 pixel font size, but for our small one, we need just 18 pixel. So 18 pixel here, and also let's make some changes or bring some new image for that, so we can see the difference. Now I'll take this one from here, and let's go back and just change the image link like that, save it, and we should see another image here. Now it's looking great, but our font size is not looking accordingly, so let's go ahead and see what's wrong. And I think I have forgotten some props here. So font size is here 40 pixel, and for the other one 18 pixel. And here inside the card we got text container, styled link, and we got font size, and we have to pass this also styled link. Okay, I forgot this also here. So here will be font size like that, and this should come from props dot font size. So whatever we gave inside the prop, it should be also here. Now as you see, we get everything as we want. Now everything is 18 pixel here, and here we got the title much bigger. And here there's another problem, it should be just here and not in the center. So let's go ahead, and inside our card we got this align items of text container center, but it should be just justify content center instead of this. So justify content center. Now as you see, everything is just like here, but there are some slightly difference. We'll take care of that in a minute. Don't worry about them. For now, let's bring some images so everything look the same. So for this, as always, let's go back to VS Code, and here we have to copy our grid because we'll be repeating this grid all the time. So now we need 3 of them. 1, 2, 3, like that. Save it, and if we go back, you can see we got these nice images. Now as you see, this button is not in its place, so let's go ahead and take care of that. For that, I'll go inside my card, and here we got more wrappers, and the reason for using all those wrappers is just because of these distance here. So for the first one here, I'll say sx is equal to, and here I'll say margin right, and then we will give it just 12. And then we need our edit button, so to bring this in its place, here I'll say sx is equal to, and this time we will be using the margin bottom. So margin bottom, so like that, and here we'll be using minus 4.5, like that. Let's save this, and if we go back, as you see, it's just in its place, and also our text is looking much better. Now it depends to you if you want to use this like that or just like here, so it's all up to you. I liked it this way, so I wanted to show you this way also, but for now I don't want to give any margin right, so everything should look the same as the original block. So it's just the same thing from there. So that's it guys for this part. See you in the next video, and if you like the video, please press the thumbs up button, and also don't forget to subscribe the channel.